I'd now like to introduce our first speaker, speaking on behalf of the Palestinian Youth Movement.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. We are the Palestinian Youth Movement, a transnational, independent, grassroots movement of Palestinian and Arab youth who work towards the liberation of our land and people, dismantling Zionism in every form, and for the right of return for all refugees. This past May and June, Palestinians globally stood steadfast against mounting Israeli violence. In response to Palestinian calls to action, we witnessed unprecedented echoes of solidarity to save Sheikh Jarrah, save Silwan, defend Jerusalem, and free Gaza. Our work is to end the Zionist colonization and occupation of Palestine and to see Palestinian liberation and self-determination through. Yet today, a San Diego-based group called Shield of David is hosting an event to rally Jews and Christians who, quote, support Judeo-Christian values, entitled, quote, anti-Israel is anti-Semitism. The event's message conflates Israel with all Jews, an anti-Semitic trope in and of itself that attempts to silence any voices that criticize Israel's ongoing colonization and apartheid policies. Trump's Secretary of State and former director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, is the keynote speaker, followed by El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells, who on July 17th echoed end times. Boo! Yeah, that's right. Shame on them. Who on July 17th echoed end times talking points in a promo video urging all Christians in San Diego County to attend, saying, quote, those who curse Israel will be cursed. This form of Zionism silences all legitimate criticism of Israel and promotes the white supremacist definition of anti-Semitism. This event is nothing less than a reactionary response to the growing Palestine movement in the U.S. and here on the stolen Kumeyaay land known as San Diego. To add insult to injury, the city of El Cajon is welcoming this event to what is known as Little Baghdad, the heart of one of California's largest Muslim and Arab communities, most of whom have been made refugees here by Zionism, ongoing U.S. war-making, and Western imperialism. We call on all supporters of justice and liberation to reaffirm that San Diego rejects Zionism, racism, and white supremacy. We understand that Palestinian liberation is tied to the liberation of all people. The root cause of white supremacy that allows for the occupation of Palestinian land is the same oppressive force that allows the murder of our black, brown, and indigenous siblings at the hands of police, border patrol, and overall state-sanctioned violence and racism. We condemn local officials enabling of these organizations, and we demand that El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells pull out from the event. We will not allow such blatant shows of racism in our streets. We will not stand by as they rally for the siege on Gaza or the demolition of Palestinian homes in the neighborhood of Silwan. We will not stand by as they rally for continued U.S. military funding to Israel's war crimes. We will not stand by as they rally for even further militarization and policing of our communities. None of us are free until all of us are free. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. I'd now like to name the sponsoring and endorsing orgs here today. We have the Palestinian Youth Movement, San Diego chapter, the Palestinian Youth Movement, Los Angeles, Orange County, and Inland Empire chapter, Jewish Voice for Peace, San Diego chapter, Karama, San Diego chapter, Black Lives Matter, San Diego chapter, Students for Justice in Palestine at San Diego State University, Unión del Barrio, San Diego chapter, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, ADC, San Diego chapter, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Freedom All Coalition, and our endorsing organizations are Borderlands for Equality and American Muslims for Palestine, Southern California. I'd now like to welcome our next speaker, Oren, speaking on behalf of Jewish Voices for Peace.
We at Jewish Voice for Peace were honored to be invited today. And Jewish Voice for Peace, the San Diego chapter formed in 2013. And as many of you know, it was 1948, the Nakba, that has put into motion so much violence and destruction for the past 73 years. For all of those 73 years, Palestinians around the world, including here on Kumeyaay land, have been organizing for liberation. We thank them. We thank all the people in the audience today who've been working for decades against censorship, against violence, against threats to life and happiness and liberty and everything that we say that we care for. We say that we care for everyone, regardless of who they love or how they worship. But Mike Pompeo and Donald Trump and those politicians, they get their power from fear and division. And that's why they're here today. They say down the street that they care about anti-Semitism, but they don't know the first thing, because they conflate Israel with Jews. One of the oldest anti-Semitic lies that puts the Jewish community at risk. Woo! Judaism is a millennia-old religious tradition. Jewish identities and culture have existed for centuries in myriad ways. Zionism is a racist, European, Christian ruling class colonial ideology that's only 120 years old. The Zionists say that Jews deserve special privileges above everyone else, certainly above Palestinians. We say equal rights for all. Yeah. A word about anti-Semitism is that it is the same machinery that these rulers, like Trump, have used for centuries. Only together can we dismantle their lies. So I invite you all, Jews, Muslims, Christians, people of no faith, people of all backgrounds, we can only get free together. Palestinian liberation and Jewish liberation are intertwined. Let's stand together.
I'd now like to welcome a member from Unión del Barrio.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Unión del Barrio, we want to express our unity with this event and the objective of challenging the philosophy of Zionist supremacy. We also unite to condemn the settler colonial apartheid policies of Israel that has occupied, displaced, and subjected the Palestinian people to the worst type of colonial oppression for over 70 years. We salute the Palestinian Youth Movement and all who are gathered here to demonstrate our righteous opposition to the Zionist movement that attempts to criminalize all criticism of the crimes committed by the State of Israel. We unite with the Palestinian people for their right to self-determination and national liberation. The world has witnessed the terrible crimes carried out by the religious fundamentalism of the State of Israel and their attempt to erase the people of Palestine. We cannot stay silent in the face of these crimes against humanity. We are also motivated to denounce the particularly nefarious former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, not only for his role in escalating and facilitating the crimes committed against the Palestinian people, but for his role in coordinating and orchestrating the coup in Bolivia 2019 that deposed Evo Morales from the presidency. For his role in coordinating and facilitating the reactionary mercenaries that attempted several coups in Venezuela in the past 5 years. For his role in advancing a policy of maximum pressure against the Cuban Revolution by imposing more than 243 sanctions and measures to economically asphyxiate the Cuban Revolution. We recognize that it's not a matter of the individual. It is a matter of U.S. imperialist policy that continues even under a changed administration. And for this reason, we unite with the anti-imperialist and anti-Zionist struggle beyond this action to find justice, peace, self-determination, and liberation for all the world's oppressed and colonized people. We unite to uphold the revolutionary example of those nations that have determined to be free from the U.S. imperial domination. Long live the self-determination and liberation of the Palestinian people. Long live the anti-imperialist struggles for liberation of all oppressed people and nations. Thank you.
Viva, viva, viva la lucha Palestina! Thank you so much, everybody. Everybody give it up one more time for Unión del Barrio.
Hello, everybody. Thank you first and foremost to the PYM, the Palestinian Youth Movement, for organizing such a great event in such a short timeline. Oftentimes when we have to react to these attacks on our communities, it really kind of shows the strength and bonds that we've built as organizers and as a community here, whether we're in downtown San Diego or in El Cajon at the border, or even all the way to the stretches of North County. So I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation here in San Diego. The PSL is a national political party with branches in most major cities all across the country. And we're proud to stand in solidarity with the struggle for national determination and self-determination and national liberation with the Palestinian people. Like the compañeros from Unión, we also stand with an internationalist position towards our relationship with the colonized people all throughout the world who are under the yoke of U.S. imperialism and their proxies in the Zionist state of Israel. So I grew up here in the city of El Cajon. My dad graduated from El Cajon Valley High School, and this kind of hatred, this kind of chauvinistic, Zionistic imperialism is nothing new for this area. For those who have heard of what we're enduring here as people of color in East County, this shouldn't surprise anybody. But what does surprise the white supremacists in our community is that there are people who are willing to fight for our communities right here. People think that these spaces have just been ceded to the reactionary elements that right now are watching our communities, watching our families, our children, our grandmothers, our parents who are out here standing in solidarity with us. And they're shaking in their boots at what a group of working class people can accomplish coming from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and from different just world experiences. So right now, we are standing as an example for the entire world of what can happen when we stand against warmongers like Pompeo, who's right here standing in solidarity with the city of El Cajon with their sanction to continue murdering people while depriving our people right here of healthcare, housing, and education. And to that we say shame. I won't reiterate what the compas already said about the crimes that have been done to the people all over the world by people like Pompeo. But I will say is that people are able to do this because of the rule of law and because of the rule of power in this country that's centralized in the hands of the ruling class. We create the wealth as workers here in this country, and when we come together in instances like right now, where we're willing to stand shoulder to shoulder and defend ourselves, defend our families, defend our communities, then we show and we demonstrate that we do have the capacity to govern, that we do have the capacity to seize the means of production in this country that we built with our own hands, and to take ownership of it, and to run it in a way that benefits all of us and ends the violence. So once again, the PSL stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people and all oppressed people that are fighting both through whatever course that they have, by any means necessary for their liberation. So we encourage everybody here that isn't already organized, because there's a lot of really great organizers here in this crowd, but if you're not, if you came out and you're a person of conscience, talk to an organizer, join an organization, or create your own, and get organized today so that way we can have the liberation that we all deserve. Thank you very much.
Everybody repeat after me. The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
Okay, hi, I'm Anne-Marie from Free Them All, San Diego. From Free Them All, San Diego. I'm Anne-Marie. We are a coalition of organizations and activists based in the San Diego-Tijuana region who are committed in affirming migration as a human right. To achieve this, we are building for a world without cages, walls, armed enforcers, and institutions built upon a foundation of white supremacy. We support the decolonization of all occupied lands, from the Kumeyaay land on which we stand to Palestine. In solidarity with the fight for the liberation of Palestine and Palestinian self-determination, we are proud to join the Palestinian Youth Movement and all our siblings in rising up against escalating Israeli violence in all its forms and the supremacist settler colonial state it defends. Part of that violence includes the use of racist Zionist propaganda in a blatantly desperate attempt to legitimize the deployment of our tax dollars to fund Israel's settler colonial project of ethnic cleansing. Those same tax dollars that pay the salary of Bill Wells and also the organization of Shield of Israel that is hosting hosting this event today. To be clear, our support for the Palestinian struggle is not simply out of solidarity, as much as that is an imperative. We see our struggles for the freedom and right of immigrant communities as one and the same, as we confront the same global structures of racial capitalism that rely and profit from ever more sophisticated technologies of policing, mass confinement, surveillance, and operate through the same racist logics of demonization, dehumanization, and death. Migrants that come through to the United States seeking protection, seeking safety, and Palestinians alike are seen as demographic threats in the white settler colonial project. We must also highlight that the very real and concrete ways in which our struggles are tightly intertwined, from the sophisticated surveillance technologies that the U.S. funds are then ending up back here, and surveilling indigenous communities and seeking to restrict the movement of indigenous communities as well as migrants. And so we must also recognize the same military and violent companies that are wanting to fund the wall, and that ICE and police, we know, are one and the same apparatus, and they receive equipment and training by the Israeli military. But that kind of war machine is operating beyond Turtle Island and Palestine. It transcends to other countries to destabilize and create the very conditions that force people to flee their countries, to supporting authoritarian regimes. It's in this sense that we stand in solidarity firmly with Palestinians, because the fight for the liberation of Palestine is our fight against capitalism, imperialism, and colonialism. Thank you.
Free the people, free them all!
Free the people, free them all!
Break the chains and let them fall!
Break the chains and let them fall!
Free the people, free them all!
Free the people, free them all!
Break the chains and let them fall!
Break the chains and let them fall!
Leave our town!
Mike Pompeo, leave our town!
We know what the rally's for!
We know what the rally's for!
Occupation and war!
Occupation and war!
Free, free Palestine!
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 We'll let you